Hello and welcome to another conversation with Revel Coach. I am Marcy Stout, co-founder of Revel Coach with my sister, the one and only Allison Nissen. And today we're excited to have Carol Parrish with us. And Carol, thank you for joining us. I personally am looking forward to this conversation because we're going to be talking about all things finance and fun. So Carol, can you introduce yourself and your business?
Sure. Well, first, thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here. As we've talked about, I love what you guys are doing. I am a financial advisor with Utor Wealth. I do a lot of work with entrepreneurial women who are very good at what they do. And then when money hits the bank account, it's what do I do next? I liken myself to be an air traffic controller of money, because planes are flying in different directions all the time and under different conditions. And that's kind of how money is and life is. And so trying to make sure we're on a clear flight plan with that. So
Carol, I love that visual because literally when you had shared that with us before and I'd seen that on your stuff, it's like, it makes so much sense because flying, when you're only worried about the seat you're in, seems really like safe and easy and predictable, which is what a lot of people have when they have an income from corporate America. And then they're like, you know what? I want in charge of my own life. I want to be in charge of my finance. I want to be in charge of this. So you kind of have cast this great vision. And now you're outside and you need that air traffic controller because it's really easy to lose money, make money, all those fun things.
And we can't control all the conditions around us, which is the same thing flying the plane. So
true.
Yeah.
So love to start the conversation, just really like speaking to like the hearts and minds of some female entrepreneurs. Where do you kind of start with clients? Like, how do you help them just get a sense of, some fundamentals and when they look at their finances?
That's a great question. So when we first talk with someone or meet with someone, we first want to find out what their history is around money and their beliefs and feelings. And with females in particular, a lot of times they feel a lot of shame or judgment because we just haven't been as educated. I mean, a female couldn't even take out a business loan from a bank without a man's signature until 1988, which, I mean, I was like in high school. I'm like, that just blows my mind. So just helping learn more about them first, and then what they really want, like how do they want to live? What are their values and what's most important to them? Because everything that we do is for them to be able to live the way that they want to. And there's no one right or wrong way to do that. So that's the first step. And then just getting an idea of what they are comfortable with or what they are doing right now. And then we can kind of take a look at, what systems can we help to simplify things and give them some options to get to where they want to get.
Can I just kind of go back to some basics with what your business does?
Absolutely.
And then I have my question. So I know a lot of our demographic matches your demographic with entrepreneurs and coaches and authors. So the work that you all do, it includes financial planning. Do you also do like the investing? Do you do like, just kind of give us a little like overview?
So there's two things that we do in particular. One is the financial planning, and that can mean like 3 million different things to people. So what we do is look at the whole picture. So that's kind of where the air traffic controller thing came into play. What are you earning? What does cash flow look like? What are your expenses? Are you investing? And if so, where is it going? Are you saving enough? Are you managing all your risks, which is something a lot of people forget about? Like, what happens if you can't work? What happens if, unfortunately, you pass away? What if you get sued? I have a teenage driver now, so I have that in the back of my head all the time. Like, what if she does something stupid? Hopefully I've trained her or taught her to not. So then we help create a plan and make recommendations to help people get from where they are to where they want to be, and then help guide them and help them implement that. But as you both know, plans never go as planned. So that's why we have to monitor and adjust periodically too. The other piece is investment management, which we can do for individuals. We're big proponents of ESG investing, which is environmental, social, and governance. And then also we do what my partner actually helped create a model that is called a gender lens portfolio that we call the alpha female. And all of the companies that are in that were screened to make sure there's, they meet requirements for number of women on the boards, number of women in leadership positions, and other diverse measurements too. So we're super excited about that. And it's a product, and we're less product focused, but it supports everything that we believe in too.
Amazing. And is that system, is that a new system that a lot of investors have, or is this something that you two invented?
We didn't invent it. It's not very common. The ESG and the socially responsible investing is becoming very common. And a lot of that, companies that are doing the right thing often perform better anyway. Obviously it's not guaranteed, but you couldn't necessarily do the gender lens as much until recently because those things weren't being measured too. So now that that's a priority, it's becoming a little bit more common, but not nearly as much as the social things like environment and governance and society. So, yeah.
That's awesome. So the question I wanted to ask when you're working with clients, I appreciate you kind of giving the insight, because I know there's both sides. So there's making sure the money's making money for you, like the second part. And then there's also just like, do I have a plan? So how do you, if you have like somebody that's just used to, I'll say, adjusting from the corporate paycheck to then running their own business. I know you said there's a couple of fundamentals, things that they really have to be intentional about. One of which is like paying yourself or like having. Can we go down that path a little bit?
Absolutely.
In case hypothetically there's somebody that has some questions.
Well, and hypothetically, and I've been that person too, because I had a W-2 paycheck and worked for a Fortune 500 company and a university before. So I was used to having that salary hit my check and all my deductions come out. The big thing, cash flow is a priority personally or for business. So my biggest recommendation is both personally, make sure you're looking at cash flow and what your balance sheet is. So your balance sheet is basically what you have and what you owe, and that will give you your net worth. So you want your assets to be more than, obviously you want to have more than what you owe, and then we want that net worth to keep growing. And that's one of the ways that we measure whether we're being successful or not, and then do the same thing for your business too. For some people, those intertwine. There's actually a book that does a very good job of kind of explaining this process, called Profit First, which you may or may not have heard of. Mike he's got an interesting pronunciation. Mike Malowitz. And he is a big proponent of this and talks about the ways to create that. But essentially, it's making sure that you're not spending more than you're earning, and that you have an idea of what your net worth is, and that's continuing to grow. A lot of like the first step that we tell people, entrepreneurs or personal, is to try to create a system. And the first thing is paying yourself, but have it go into automate it. So if you can directly have it go into your savings account, you're automatically building that pool of money, because then you can just take out from savings, like have that flow into checking, but don't move everything to checking. What a lot of people do is have it go directly into checking and then it gets spent. But if you put it in savings and only move what you know you need, then it's just automatically growing.
That's so simple, but it's so smart. Like, I feel like I mean, like that type of principle, my daughter's so good about savings and so good about spending every penny on her checking. So I feel like she needs to reverse when she's getting paid to go to savings first, then she's flowing it over.
Well, and my daughter she's 17 and she got her first job about 6 or 7 months ago. And she actually had a personal finance class and came to me saying, I want to make sure some of it goes into savings. So I didn't even have to teach her that. But she has a portion goes directly into savings and then just spending money goes into checking. So, yeah, that's the biggest thing. And it, like you said, it sounds so simple, but we're conditioned to spend what we have come in. That's the American way.
Yeah, Carol, you make everything sound so simple, and it's easy for us to follow along. So how do you help spread this idea that let's save first, let's take care of our own personal needs, so that we can make sure we have a secure future?
So it can be actually simple. I mean, it really is simple if you just look at the basics. There's really 5 ways that you can use your money, or the kind of the main, we call them skills. One is earning it. And so if you're not making enough to do the things that you want to do, you could start your own business to do that, or look at a different job. Saving, investing, and a lot of people don't realize that saving and investing are 2 different things. You can save money and not have it grow, or I guess when you invest, it could lose money too. Giving, which is something that a lot of people think about. And then the other one is, that is it, spending, the one everybody does first, unfortunately. But if you can master each of those skills, it really is, simpler than it sounds. So we kind of start one step at a time where, okay, what are you making? Are you saving? Then we can look at investing. So there's that taking care of yourself first, kind of with those first 3 skills, and then spend, and then a portion of that giving to whatever you believe in. It could be your kids, it could be your church, it could be the environment, it could be, I'm a blood donor. That's not money, but that's one of the ways that I give too.
And that's very needed.
I'm not sure if that answered your question.
No, that's great. And the idea of giving before spending is an interesting, I think most people approach money with a scarcity mindset.
Oh yeah.
And so therefore they don't really think about giving and being generous. I do believe that when we are generous, it comes back to us twofold. So there's value in that giving, but and like you said, just giving blood, it doesn't have to necessarily be, you're literally giving of yourself when you're donating blood, right? But, giving of yourself and your time and your talents is not all money. And so, learning how to network with people and learning how to give back to others in creative ways. And a lot of times what you get in return, if you're giving back in a creative way, is advice. You're getting influence, you're receiving things that are not necessarily money, but you're growing, and growth is what will get you to have more to begin with.
Well, and we say a lot, like the money is really just a tool for you to live the way that you want. So if your values are to give and share and do things for others, like we find a lot of times that women feel bad when they have money, like they feel guilty or greedy. When in reality, at least in my opinion, the world is better when women have money, because we tend to give more. and we tend to care about others, and the money allows us, right or wrong, it can give us more power to do and the capabilities to do some of the things that we want to do.
So I know you're in Seattle. One of my favorite quotes is the Melinda Gates quote, where when you're investing in a woman, you're investing in the rest of the world. Some sort of quote like that. And I think it's so true, because women are kind of like a DNA is creating communities and nurturing families and things like that. So if money is switched in the mindset, like Allison said, that scarcity mindset, but into a mindset of like, how can this money give more and like create more? I think you'd have better relationships with money.
Well, there's statistics, and I can't remember off the top of my head, but women invest more in their communities than men do. Mm-hmm. And it's quite a significant difference too, which is why it's good when women have more money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so good. And a lot of what you're talking about, like when you said you first meet with clients, you try to understand their core values and what's important to them or a lifestyle, so then they could really figure out how money plays a part to giving them that freedom to live how they want to live. And it's pretty cool to hear me talk about how to make sure that giving is one of the main pillars that you're talking with people, and however you do it, in your style.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So tell me about UTOR name, the name UTOR Wealth. I feel like that's kind of...
It is a unique name. So my business partner founded the company, and she came up with that name. It means employ or enjoy in Latin, which is ultimately what we want our clients and others to do. We want them to employ their resources the way that they choose to, and then to be able to enjoy themselves both now and in the future. We find, especially with women, that they feel like either they need to save and not spend or enjoy themselves now so that they can splurge in retirement, or vice versa, where they are living large right now, but then they're scraping by in retirement. So how can we help them employ their money to enjoy themselves now and later too?
Yeah. Well, I just love that name. I love the thought. I love the creativity behind it, because again, wealth and enjoying, like, they should go hand in hand.
Yeah.
So Carol, do you, going back to the entrepreneurs, do you also help with, I just feel like a lot of people go into the entrepreneurial world because there's different tax benefits. There's different ways of running your business that's not like a W-2. Any tips or traps to look out for, or ideas for that?
Good question. I hadn't thought about that, but for me, one of the main reasons that I decided to do this was the independence. Having kids, and my husband works quite a bit, and I used to work a lot, especially when I worked in athletics. So to have that flexibility was one thing. Income wise, nobody can determine what I make or don't make. Tax wise, a lot of that, like, we don't necessarily do we'll do some tax strategy stuff. We can't legally talk taxes since we're not licensed CPAs. But there definitely are some benefits, like with retirement plans, there's ways to set them up where if you're generating enough that you can save more, you can actually save more than if you were like in a 401k or just putting money like in a Roth, which has like I think this year it's 65 or 7,000, 65 or $6,500 or $7,000. But there's some plans as an entrepreneur where you can put up to almost $50,000 based on what your income is, and if you have employees, et cetera. So that's a good example of one. Business, writing off business expenses can help too. And there's some specifics about like home offices, which a lot of people are doing now, where you have to have a designated space that is only used for work. But there's a lot of other like travel and things like that you can write off. So I would say those are two of the big things. Yes.
Yeah,
I would encourage others to talk to their CPAs can give them even more things to help with that.
Yeah, that was one of my big lessons, just kind of thinking differently about when money comes in, because one of which, when you get revenue from a client, that's not cash. You still have to take out all the taxes and everything like that.
Yes. Oh, that's a good point. You have to do that yourself or hire a bookkeeper or someone to manage that, where with the W-2, the company is already doing all that for you.
Yeah, which is great if you like to spend what you earn. If you're working for W-2 for an employer, but the entrepreneurs really have to be thoughtful in what they receive, because that's not actually what they're earning. So you definitely have to pay taxes, and there's bills, and there's all that type
and
of stuff.
that the Profit First book that I mentioned before, they actually talk about setting aside money for the quarterly taxes and things so that it's not spent. And that's another thing that can be automated, where maybe a pool one flows into savings, one flows into taxes. And I know several people who have forgotten about the taxes and then end up trying to be able to pay those at the end of the year. So that's a very real thing.
So Carol, just shifting gears a little bit, you and Marcy met through a networking group. So I know the value of networking. How has networking helped you in your career path?
That's gosh, you guys are full of great questions. I know I've said that like 3 times. For me, I've been lucky enough to meet so many amazing people and women in a number of different roles, because I've been in different roles, but it's provided me a lot of community. I've learned a tremendous amount from people, but it's also enabled me to be able to help others, because I meet CPAs, I meet attorneys, I have met people from when I worked in sports, where I even met a gal at a networking event the other day who's a younger, she's right out of the military and is looking for a career in sports. And even though I've been out for 15 years, I still have connections there where I can help her. The other thing I really love is like other women that have been through or are going through similar situations are such a great support network too, which I find very helpful and empowering too, because they'll lift us up when we need it and, tell it to us like it is when we need to hear it too.
That's always the challenge, right? Of how much do you tell? How much do you share with someone? How much do you hold back when you're wanting to help somebody? I know I appreciate when somebody is just even one step ahead of me, so that they're just a little bit. They don't have to be years ahead of me, but just that 1 or 2 steps ahead of me, and then they can offer that information that will. It's just like they've just stepped in front of me, so now I can follow in their footsteps. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to find somebody that's like, years down the road.
Right. No, that's a great point. And just being able to reach out to someone and ask them a question. I'm in X situation, have you been through this? And if so, how did you handle it? Or how would you handle it differently this time too? And it's nice having kind of that advisory board to be able to go to, for sure.
So the networking group that Carol and I are part of is called the Dames. And I think we both would highly recommend the Dames as a great networking, because it's women, and then it's all these different industries. But Carol, what I admired about you when we made our call, so they do the power partners, they meet people, but and this seems to be my experience on a lot of networking calls that go great, tend to have the same theme. This is what I admire about you is really just like a authentic, like, actually, I want to get to know you and I want to see how I can help you. And then this is my story with no like preconceived, nobody's really like BSing and exaggerating where they are. There are people that are clearly ahead of me, but at the same time, they're like, yeah, but at this stage, this is I don't know. And I want to meet with you because I want to ask this. And I love that type of authenticity that the Dames kind of brings together when you're meeting with people.
Yeah, well, and I would agree. Obviously, you two are the same way. And I feel like with most of the partnerships I've made, that is the case. And I find it more with, I don't know, entrepreneurial women do seem to be like that more because we're all helping each other.
And we're all very humble by our entrepreneurial experience.
Yes. And it's been rare that I feel like I run into someone who feels like they know everything and act like it too. So, yeah, the other thing I like about the Dames is it has, kind of to your point, Allison, people at different levels kind of their career or tiers of revenue that have been through different stages of their businesses, and they're willing to share things that have worked and haven't worked for them too. So yeah, you're spot on with that.
Well, Carol, if people wanted to find out more about you, what's the best place to discover more at your LinkedIn page or? Sure,
LinkedIn is good, and it's just the Carol Parrish. And it sounds weird, the Carol Parrish, but I'm the Carol Parrish on Instagram also, because Carol Parrish was already taken and I wanted to have the same thing. I did go to the Ohio State University, so I had to add it on.
I feel like that's what it sounded like.
Yeah. And our website is Utor Wealth, UTOR wealth.com. I'll provide a link for you guys as well if you'd like to include it. We actually created a guide to help women find the right financial advisor for them. And it talks about, basically what their needs are and what the types of different professionals are to kind of help fit that with them. And I can give you the link to that too. It's just guide.utorwealth.com, and they can just download it there as well.
Wow, that's thank you so much for suggesting the guide. I know that would be so helpful to so many different people.
Yeah, great. Well, that's what we're trying to do. So help as many women as we can.
Well, Carol, thank you so much for coming. This has been another Revel Coach conversation with Allison Nissen and my sister, Marcy Stout. We are so glad you're here. Be sure to follow us on LinkedIn to never miss an episode.
Revel Coach is a collaborative platform that builds leadership programs for entrepreneurs, coaches, executives, and authors. For more information, visit us at revelcoach.com and follow us on LinkedIn to never miss an update.